Have you ever wondered if you could actually understand an entire economy, one of the biggest in the world, just by reading a single day's newspaper? I know, it sounds kind of impossible, right? But if you look closely, buried in the headlines, the earnings reports, and all the policy talk, there's a really powerful story. So let's dive in and see what story today's news is telling us about one of the world's most dynamic economies.
So here's the plan. We're going to piece together the puzzle of the Indian economy using only the news from a single 24-hour cycle. The goal here is to find that big picture that's hiding in plain sight. You know, the trends, the tensions, and the real trajectory of a nation on the move. And where do you always start when you're looking for clues? Well, you follow the money. The second quarter earnings reports are flooding in, and they give us our first really powerful signal. This is where companies have to stop talking and show us the numbers. This is where we see how they're really doing.
And right away, we see some serious strength. Take the auto sector. Hyundai posts a solid 14% jump in profit. I mean, that tells you something important. People are out there buying cars, and that is always a strong sign of consumer confidence.
And it's not just the big-ticket items either. In consumer goods, you've got Dabur, up 6.5%. And here's the crucial part. The company says it's because of a revival in rural demand. That tells us the economic energy isn't just stuck in the big cities, it's actually spreading out.
And if you want a real indicator of consumer spending, check this out. United Spirits, a massive 36% jump in profit. Wow, this points to really robust spending on lifestyle and leisure, which is another key sign of a healthy consumer base. But you know, these big numbers, they're only half the story.
See, a profit number is just a headline. The real story is behind that number. How did these companies actually achieve this kind of growth? Let's stick with Hyundai for a second to see what's really driving their success.
And right here you can see the two main engines of the Indian economy just firing away. You've got growth coming from inside the country with that rising rural demand, but also from the outside with really strong performance in exports to key overseas markets. It's a domestic story and a global one all at the same time.
Now for a wider view, let's look at a massive conglomerate like ITC. Their net profit is steady, which, okay, might not seem super exciting at first glance, but look a little closer. Both total income and total expenses are up. That suggests the company isn't just sitting still. It's actively spending and investing to grow across all its diverse sectors. This is a picture of stable, broad-based economic activity. So, with the corporate side looking strong, let's zoom out to the global stage.
Yeah, that export growth we saw with Hyundai doesn't just magically happen. It relies on this incredibly complex web of trade routes, diplomacy, and, let's be honest, navigating some very tricky international relationships. And this brings us to a crucial piece of news. The United States has just extended a sanctions waiver for India's development of the Chabahar port in Iran. Now, this isn't just some routine decision. It is a major geopolitical signal.
And that's a fair question. I mean, it's just one port in a country under heavy sanctions. Why is this headline so incredibly significant for India's economic future?
Well, Chabahar is basically India's strategic gateway. It lets them bypass their rival Pakistan, connecting India directly to Afghanistan and Central Asia. It's a key piece of a massive transport corridor that stretches all the way to Russia and Europe, and it's also a vital counterweight to China's influence in the region. So this is about trade, yes, but it's also about power. It's like watching a masterclass in navigating a very complex world.
And Chabahar is just one example of the tightrope India is walking. On the very same day, we see news about the US suspending port fees in its ongoing spat with China, which affects global shipping for everyone. And of course, there's still all this pressure on India over its purchase of Russian oil. So, the takeaway? India is skillfully navigating a world of competing interests to keep its economic engines running.
Okay, so we've looked at corporate boardrooms and global ports. Now let's bring the economy right back down to the people. Because ultimately, an economy is all about what its citizens are doing, what they're buying, and what they're spending.
And what they're about to do is spend. A lot. Get this. The Confederation of All India Traders estimates that the upcoming wedding season will generate a staggering 6.5 lakh crore rupees in business. That's hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars. Just an incredible number.
And as the head of the Traders Association puts it, this isn't just a cultural event. It's basically a massive economic stimulus package, and it's driven entirely by the people. This flow of money fuels everything from jewelry and apparel to catering and hospitality. But it's not all just unchecked spending.
The Indian consumer is also incredibly savvy. They're watching prices very carefully and making some pretty strategic decisions about where to put their money, especially when it comes to long-term investments.
And this chart right here tells that story perfectly. Even with all the weddings and festivals going on, demand for gold jewelry actually saw a significant drop. We're talking 17% year over year. So what's the reason? Well, look at that other bar. A massive 23% surge in gold prices. This shows that while consumers are happy to spend, they are definitely not going to buy at any cost.
All right, finally, let's look at the breadcrumbs in today's news that point to where this whole economy is headed tomorrow. These are the strategic bets and the policy shifts that are shaping the future.
And you can see 4 clear directions taking shape. There's a big push for self-reliance in high-tech defense with a new jet engine project. There's a real focus on the green energy transition, with solar power schemes for rural areas. There's a strategic conversation happening about building smaller cities to decongest the megacities. And there's even a plan to just get better economic data. Every single one of these is a building block for the future.
So after our little whirlwind tour of a single day's news, what's the big picture? Well, it's an economy that has a powerful domestic engine, driven by consumer spending and corporate growth. But it's also one that is deeply connected to the rest of the world, and it has to constantly navigate global risks and opportunities.
And that leaves us with this central question, doesn't it? This one day of news reveals a really powerful tension, a booming domestic economy driving forward against a world of geopolitical friction that's pushing back. The story of India's future, then, isn't just about growth. It's about whether its incredible internal resilience can overcome the inevitable storms that are gathering outside.